I mean, two cities have glommed all the championships and players.
I don't want to date a man that doesn't have any female friendships.
Bingo.
I don't want to date a man who only gets input from other men and who has all women in two categories: your mother or your aunties, or someone I want to sleep with.
Okay, what's up guys? So there's crazy news dropping the sports media world, and after reading this article, I can't put to words how insane this story is. So there's a 42-page lawsuit obtained by Front Office Sports where a lady by the name of Nushin Faraji worked at Fox Sports from 2012 until last August. And in this lawsuit, the defendants listed are FS1 the company, one of their executive VPs, Charlie Dixon, FS1 host Joy Taylor, and the one and only Skip Bayless. Okay, so basically, it's an SA lawsuit where the victim alleged that FS1 EVP Charlie Dixon grabbed her by the butt at a West Hollywood party, but when she told this encounter to Joy Taylor, Joy allegedly told her to get over it. Next, the lawsuit mentions Skip Bayless, and I'm just going to read this part of the article where she claimed that Skip gave her, quote, lingering hugs and kisses on the cheek while putting his body against hers and pressing against her breast. The single mother alleges she repeatedly told Bayless she was not interested in him and did not date at work. She also claims that she told Bayless she was suffering from ovarian cancer after developing issues with her left ovary in an effort to halt his advances. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there, but again, this is all allegedly. But if true, this is pretty wild, and I'm not even done. It gets even more insane later with the part about Joy Taylor. I've timestamped everything, even the part where it gives detailed information about office hookups and all the diabolical stuff Joy Taylor was doing. It's crazy. Anyways, first off, I gotta say, I'm personally a bit hesitant believing these type of stories, especially the timing of it, but that's not to say this did or didn't happen. But we all know there's a ton of people out in the world looking for a big payday. It's going to be interesting to see if anyone else steps forward because that would bring a lot more credibility to these allegations. Again, I'm not saying that she is not credible, but similarly to the Deshaun Watson case, I think the public was very wary about the allegations of SA until more lawsuits started flooding in the months later. That said, this is pretty crazy to hear that this type of stuff was going on at FS1 if true. Anyways, I'm going to dig a little further into this article. Okay, so here she says that Skip, over the years, got more aggressive and allegedly offered Faraji $1.5 million to hook up with him. Yo, that's a crazy number, $1.5 million? I'm gonna be honest, this is giving me a red flag with this number. She also said that Skip accused Faraji of sleeping with Shannon, and then approximately 1 week later, Mr. Bayless made another advance at Miss Faraji, and Miss Faraji responded, "Skip, stop, you have a wife." Mr. Bayless responded, "Aren't you Muslim? Doesn't your dad have 3 or 4 wives?" Okay, this story is getting wild. Wow, if he actually said this, that's pretty crazy. At first thought, I don't think Skip would have said something like this, just seeing how he was with her social and racial issues, but then again, the last couple years he has seemed a bit more based. I mean, the man literally tweeted things not too long ago that people thought crossed the line when he went on Twitter after the Damar Hamlin injury, and all that other crazy shit he said to his co-host Shannon Sharp on TV. I mean, I guess it's quite possible he could have said all this. Anyways, back to the article. So Miss Faraji responded that her father was dead, and when Mr. Bayless looked taken aback, she made an excuse to leave. Okay, so this next part is a bit interesting and can bring a lot more credibility to the story. It states that during her time at Fox, Faraji alleges that she made multiple complaints to HR and Employee Relations Department. That's actually pretty big because then there's documentation from her employer, FS1, that she addressed this with her company. It's one thing if she just brings out this lawsuit out of nowhere, but the fact that there's years and years of documentation makes her story a bit more believable for me. Okay, now this is where the story gets crazier. It reads, the suit alleges Taylor began insulting Miss Faraji on a personal and professional level after their friendship ended. The suit also alleges that Taylor mocked the English pronunciation of Faraji, who is of Persian descent. Her lengthy tenure at Fox Sports and not so thinly veiled references to multiple anonymous witnesses suggest that she may have receipts to back up her version of the events, said Daniel Wallach, a sports attorney, lawyer, and co-host of the podcast Conduct Detrimental. Just as importantly, she contemporaneously raised these issues with coworkers, which in the jurors' eyes could boost her credibility of these claims. Miss Faraji brings forth this action because for over a decade at Fox, she was forced to endure misogynistic, racist, and ableistic workplace where executives and talents were allowed to physically and verbally abuse workers with impunity, the suit alleges. When Miss Faraji and others came forward to report the wrongdoing, instead of addressing their concerns, Fox retaliated against them while the perpetrators and those who protected them were inexplicably promoted. This case thus represents yet another in a long line of cases chronicling the toxic work culture at Fox, marked by bad faith promises and repeated failures to address poisonous and entrenched patriarchy. Wow, that's a lot more to unpack. Basically, she's saying it was a toxic work environment for her, and it appears there are other employees who reported and corroborated her claims. Again, it's going to be interesting to see if anyone else comes forward publicly though. I'm actually curious to hear what Marcellus Wiley has to say about this, because he ain't at FS1 anymore and is privy to a lot of the information, having worked there, and he just doesn't seem like the type that'll cover up for his former colleagues. So I did some more digging and I found the transcripts of the lawsuit, and this is pretty crazy stuff about Joy Taylor. I'm going to read the transcript word for word. In approximately March 2016, Ms. Faraji met Ms. Taylor, an aspiring sports personality that had recently moved from Miami to Los Angeles for the opportunity of airtime at Fox. At the time, Ms. Taylor did not have a regular position but would fill in on a day-to-day basis when talent was sick or otherwise missed time. Ms. Taylor told Ms. Faraji that she recently wed, but her husband remained in Miami and that she was lonely in Los Angeles. Ms. Taylor then befriended Ms. Faraji. In approximately May 2016, Ms. Taylor asked Ms. Faraji to meet for a drink in Santa Monica. When Ms. Faraji arrived, she found Ms. Taylor with an older man, Fox Sports Executive President of Content, Mr. Dixon. As Executive VP, Mr. Dixon is responsible for overseeing all content and production on FS1. Ms. Faraji, however, did not know Mr. Dixon. When Mr. Dixon went to buy them another round of spicy margaritas, Ms. Faraji asked who he was. Ms. Taylor responded that he was just a friend. Following that night, whenever Ms. Faraji would meet Ms. Taylor for food or drinks, Mr. Dixon would either arrive with Ms. Taylor or show up later in the night and leave with Ms. Taylor. He would always buy rounds of drinks and or food. From their body language, Ms. Faraji suspected that the pair were sleeping with each other, and although this concerned Ms. Faraji as she knew Ms. Taylor was recently married, Ms. Faraji kept her opinions to herself. In approximately June 2016, while at work, Ms. Faraji noticed Mr. Dixon in the elevator. Surprised by the coincidence, Ms. Faraji told Ms. Taylor and told her excitedly, "The guy who always buys our drinks was in the elevator." Ms. Taylor quickly silenced Ms. Faraji, explaining who he was. Ms. Faraji became alarmed and warned Ms. Taylor that such a relationship was unsafe. Ms. Taylor told her not to worry about it. Ms. Faraji continued to be friends with Ms. Taylor, but tried to distance herself as she considered the situation dangerous as well as morally wrong, as Ms. Taylor and Mr. Dixon were both married. In approximately July 2016, word spread amongst Fox employees about a new show that was going to be a big deal as it would star Mr. Bayless and Shannon Sharpe. It was known that Fox was looking for a woman with significant TV experience to also star, therefore it came as a surprise when Fox announced Ms. Taylor, who was a bartender and a radio host in Miami with very little TV experience, would be the moderator of the new show, a sports debate program, Skip and Shannon, Undisputed. Mr. Bayless later disclosed to Ms. Faraji that he did not want Ms. Taylor on the show, but Mr. Dixon was adamant that Ms. Taylor should star. At first, Mr. Dixon arranged a dinner between Mr. Bayless and Ms. Taylor where she arrived in a provocative clothing and acted in a provocative manner. When that did not change Mr. Bayless's opinion of Ms. Taylor, Mr. Dixon asked him to prove her as a favor to him. Reluctantly, Mr. Bayless agreed to do so as a favor to his friend. Around August 2016, Ms. Faraji attended a dinner with Ms. Taylor and her husband and Mr. Dixon and his wife. During the dinner, Ms. Taylor's husband became suspicious that Ms. Taylor and Mr. Dixon were having a sexual relationship. Soon after the dinner, Ms. Taylor's husband found evidence of the inappropriate relationship and divorced Ms. Taylor. Okay, this shit is crazy. Actually, the comment section on Twitter is even wilder. I can't stop laughing at some of the stuff I'm seeing. This one tweet read, "This is how Joy Taylor was showing up to work every day, by the way. If it's not nepotism for these female sports personalities, it's favors." Yo, he ain't capping, because I remember Joy Taylor always wearing those revealing dresses and tops. Anyways, it doesn't end there for Joy Taylor. Here's another excerpt from the lawsuit. In approximately February 2020, Ms. Taylor asked Ms. Faraji to meet her for lunch in Beverly Hills. When Ms. Faraji arrived, she found Ms. Taylor with a man, Emmanuel Acho. Ms. Faraji did not know Mr. Acho, but could tell that the two were romantically involved. A few months after meeting Mr. Acho at the lunch, Ms. Faraji noticed him in the hallway while at work. Ms. Faraji later asked Ms. Taylor if Mr. Acho also worked at Fox. Ms. Taylor confirmed and explained that she wanted Mr. Acho to eventually recommend her on the show Speak for Yourself. Ms. Faraji became alarmed and warned Ms. Taylor that she should probably not sleep with Mr. Dixon and Mr. Acho at the same time, as Mr. Dixon is a very powerful man that may become very angry. Ms. Taylor told her not to worry about it. She explained that she was also now powerful, and once Mr. Dixon was no longer useful to her, she would follow through on her plan to tell the company that he forced himself on her. She would not allow herself to be forced out by Mr. Dixon like other women talent. Yo, that last part was crazy. Joy Taylor is diabolical. Wow, this is even bigger than I thought. This is way worse for Joy Taylor than it is for Skip Bayless. I gotta process this a bit more. I don't even know what to believe. Anyways, I'm gonna make more videos on this subject if anything new comes up. But that being said, let me know what you guys think about this lawsuit.